All right, man. My name is Ernie, and I am an alcoholic.
Ernie.
All right. So I'm up here to share my experience, strength, and hope with you guys, and hope I don't lose some integrity with doing it. All right. Let's see. I'm not gonna go into too much of the war stories. I know you guys know about all that shit. You guys want to know the war stories? The ESPNs?
It's so different.
All right, well, let's go. Well, before I came into the rooms, and even a little bit of the rooms, the person I was I was the guy who robbed the flower guy. I was the guy who robbed the guy selling the fruit. You know, if you heard, show me the bunny, that meant empty your pockets. I'm not too proud of that story, but it did happen. As a younger man in my about 12, 13, 14 years old, the people I was around were the people moving weight, like cartel members. And it was only, my friends' brothers, the older cats. Our job was to get rid of the wrappings that the packages came into, and doing that, we were able to scrape our stuff, That was the substances, that was the foundation of my youth. I didn't know any better. I've seen heads in buckets and pictures when we were counting out millions and millions of dollars in money machines. And, these were threats. These were, they were laughing about it then, but I see them today as they were threats. They were, we were counting money, doing all this blow. And, I have a really bad anxiety today, and I think it's just from me being young and being in those situations and having to play it cool, act like I've seen it and been there before, and just to maintain the calmness. I've seen heads pop with the shotgun. I've had the blood in my mouth, tasted like pennies. I've had skull fragments in my eye. I also took three from a double out buck, and my two in one leg, one in the other leg, through the wall, stopped at my bone. I held my best friend in my arms while he took his last breath. This is the normal of my youth. This was all before I was 15 years old. And, I met my baby mother at 16, and she was 4 years older than me because I went after the older gals. And we were together for 19 years. In those 19 years, they were good. I had a lot of rage. I had a lot of blackout moments, a lot of fights. But I never put hands on my woman. But I did do a lot of threats. Her knowing where I came from. She was. I put her. I had her as hostage, as we like to say, right? Upon having my daughter, I have two daughters. I have one that's 23, one that's 17. My 23-year-old just barely came into my life recently. Again, after, me going out. I've been a newcomer for 12 years. And she barely came back into my life in the last, maybe couple months. My 17-year-old still doesn't want nothing to do with me. And this is just the wreckage of my past, and I know, I have a living amends to make with them. But the sad part is, within that time when I met my baby mother, 2 days after my youngest daughter was born, my brother died from alcoholism. He died, he had a hole in his lung. My brother was the kind of person that he would drink, he'd get 6 to 8 32 ounces after work every day, and an E&J airplane shot to go with it. And he'd open up the airplane shot, put it between his lips, he'd shoot it back, and then upon doing that, he'd kill a Magnum or a Steel Reserve. And this is, just something I grew up with. He died at 38 years old. He's the oldest of my 5 siblings. I'm the youngest. 2 boys. We got 3 girls in the middle. And he died 2 days after my youngest daughter was born. And, I wasn't really an alcoholic. I was more of an addict before that. And I kind of took the reins after that. I don't remember my daughter. Her first 2 years. I don't remember her being a toddler. I don't remember her crawling. I don't remember her taking her first steps. I remember the bars. I remember, the fights. I remember the behind the cop cars, you know, the rides and shit. I remember all those things. I remember losing my gold chain. I remember doing all these things from bars. You know, I was running and gunning. Okay, so what happened was, you know, after, you know, so much of this abuse, and I ended up, you know, I drinking a lot. You know what I mean? I'm a blackout drinker. I'm a person who will drink a lot of brews and wake up at Chewy's house with a pipe in my hand, and come to, not knowing how I got there. In fact, my last DUI, I passed a cop on the freeway going over 120 miles an hour in complete blackout at 4 o'clock in the morning. We're the only two cars on the freeway. I kind of remember right before, you know, I remember like dozing off and swerving on the freeway and barely gaining control. I had a stage 2 Honda Accord, a Frankenstein motor in it. And I was hauling ass. And on the police report, it said that he took 4 exits for him to catch me before he could, you know, pull me over. And what happened was, I kind of remember coming to towards that end. You know, I came out. I remember I just broke up with my lady. We were going through all this shit, and I was just done. You know what I mean? By the time he came up behind me, I was already outside the car, and I was ready to go. I remember telling him, just take me. That was after, you know, I went into Salvation Army for the first time. So I go into Salvation Army for the first time, right? And, you know, Salvation Army is a Christian-based program, right? 3 days after going in, they saved me, right? I was saved, and they said that, you know, God will forgive my sins and all this and that, right? 7 days after that, 10 days after walking into that place, I walked out that fucker because I was saved, right? And I found Jesus. When I remember going to my friend's house and them telling me, you know, after me leaving, then they're like, what the fuck? Why are you here? Isn't it a 6-month program? Aren't you supposed to be in rehab? And I was insulted, right? Like, these are my drinking buddies. These are my using buddies. Everybody's telling me I should be in fucking rehab, right? And these guys are just as bad as I am, right? And, you know, it still didn't soak in to to my abuse and shit. So that was in 2012. In 2016, I'm bouncing around a little bit, but I'm getting to my point. So in 2016, you know, actually in 2012, so I come into these rooms and I'm getting my court card signed and I'm shaking hands. I'm sitting in death row, filling my Arizona iced tea in with liquor, sitting in the back in a paper bag, getting my court card signed. By that time, I had already lost my brother, and the shit that you guys were saying in the rooms, the shit that I was hearing in the rooms, I was resonating, but it wasn't resonating to my alcohol use, right? It was resonating to my brother, what my brother was going through. I was hearing my brother's story, you know what I mean? And I started to listen, and I went from death row. I went from not bringing alcohol in to kind of, you know, blossoming some cool relationships in the meetings. And I went from death row, and I started sitting at the table. It was a rectangle. And this was in Moreno Valley, right, in Riverside County. This is where I got my, where I went in for my first time. And so I made some friends, and I remember coming to the table, and they said, all right, now we can start talking shit to you. You know, like finally you come out of death row, right? And I felt part of. But on that final signature, you know, oh yeah, I'll be back. You know, I said I was an alcoholic. I raised my hand. I shared. I blabbed about some bullshit, you know what I mean? And, you know, I felt part of, but as soon as I got that final signature, I was fucking gone. I didn't come back until 2016, 4 years later, when, you know, the relationship between me and my baby mother had dissolved, basically. Came into the rooms crying, came into the rooms broken, spiritually bankrupt, but still trying to get a fix and cure in the rooms because I heard enough good shit in there and I heard people's lives changing, right? Them getting their wives back and whatnot. I was still just trying to get my girl back. I was still trying to get my woman back. I was trying to get my kids back. Because, you know, I wasn't a bad dad. I had 2 lives, right? So I would put my kids to sleep and then I'd go out at night. You know, I wasn't doing dope in front of them. I would just do dope behind the wall, you know what I mean? Going to Disneyland, I gotta get high. Going to Disneyland, I gotta get my drink, you know what I mean? I'm a IPA drinker. I thought I was really good alcoholic because I started finding the good drinks, IPA, Black Beauty Stouts, those good ones. I didn't think I had a problem because I couldn't drink that much before I got real drunk, right? I wasn't drinking fucking 18 packs and shit. Can't drink that much of that. But, so I go into Salvation Army for the first time. I walk out 10 days later. 2 weeks after that is when I got that second DUI, when I passed the cop. And I was ready to go. I tried to get back in after I got the DUI. I tried to get back in the Salvation Army. They said I had to wait 30 days. So I waited 30 days and I went back in. And I got kicked out again for fighting. I became a Kingsman. I did all these great things. My daughter started coming into church, started building that relationship with my kids again, and boom, I get into a fight, right? 4.5 months in, they kick me out. I go back into Salvation Army, this time not from San Bernardino, but to Riverside. Same thing, get into a fight, get out, right? I did this for about 6 years, going in and out of fucking Salvation Army because I didn't have no job. I didn't have no insurance, right? I was only going where they would take me. So I finally started to come into the rooms, but I was still going into the rooms for all the wrong reasons. I was coming into the rooms because of social outlet, to meet the girls. I've done all the bad things you probably shouldn't do in these rooms. Like I broke into these rooms to sleep in these rooms. I broke into these rooms to have sex in these rooms with girls. I've fought in these rooms, right? Thrown blows. I've used in these rooms. I've gone to the restroom and smoked in the rooms, right? I've done all these things, and no wonder why I couldn't get sober, right? I still, to this day, have not been able to scrape up more than 9 months. And because it's a me issue. It's not really everything else. It's a me issue. Integrity wasn't part of me. You know what I mean? I did not have integrity. I would lie, steal, and cheat to get my way. I was a big guy always growing up. I was the youngest one in my crowd. I could throw the biggest tantrum to get my way. And that's kind of that's Ernie, right? That's the Ernie that people know me as. I'm not really the person that, they call for their kid's birthday. You know what I mean? Birthday party, come over. I'm not that dude. I had a very short temper. I like to fight. I like to drink the beer and pull a Batman. You know what I mean? When I get good and drunk, I'm not saying later, I'm gone after, right? So things started to change when I finally lost my dad, right? My dad calls me up, and we didn't have a great relationship. He was in and out of prison, and he calls me up, and he tells me, son, I have stage 4 bone cancer, and I'm dying. Doc says I have 6 months to live. And I was like, fuck that. Fuck you. You know what I mean? Where the fuck you been? You know what I mean? Now you're going to call me because you're fucking on death. You're basically dying, It took me 4 months to get enough courage to realize that, you know what? If I don't fucking do this, if I don't go and visit him because he lives in Albuquerque, if I don't go over there and visit him, I'm going to regret this shit. I was in sobriety at the time, and I had probably maybe 3 months. So I go out there to Albuquerque 4 months after getting that phone call, and I see my poor dad. He's sitting, they have him at home. He's at home, and he's maybe like 85 pounds, just all bone. And I fucking broke down crying. I couldn't believe that was my dad. The dude who, a very independent man. He was a salesman, had his own business. He sold industrial machinery. He did other things too, but we'll just talk about the good things, right? That was my poor dad, man. I seen him and I couldn't fucking leave him. For the next 6 weeks, I didn't leave his side. My job understood. They let me go. They let me, take my leave, and I took care of my dad, and I was with him holding his hand until he took his last breath. What that did to me was, I remember my dad telling me, he knew I was all fucked up, but, I was trying to get better. And when I got there, my family, they're all alcoholics. They won't admit it. And I can't say that they're alcoholics. A lot of them are heavy drinkers, but we all got problems, right? I'm the only one in sobriety in my family. When I came into sobriety, I had to turn away from all my friends and family because nobody that I knew was in sobriety. Sobriety was just something I seen on TV. It's non-existent, right? My family looks at me still to this day as a fucking weak link, right? Somebody that can't handle his alcohol. Somebody that gave up their kids for the booze and the pipe, right? That's the person that I am in their eyes. They don't understand the fucking experience. They don't understand the strength and hope that comes from these rooms, and they don't get it, right? So I lose my dad. I go into a psychosis. I'm roaming the streets. I end up in a gurney. I end up in detox. And from detox in Aurora, they sent me to the BG over in Pasadena. And I went into the BG, and for the first time, I was there doing it for myself. I was there doing it for myself. I wasn't trying to get the girl. I wasn't trying to meet the women in the rooms. I was fucked up. I lost my mind, and I was trying to get better. There's actually a gentleman in here that did the intake for me, and he could vouch. I was about 187 pounds when I came back into the room, right? I did it to the best of my ability, but I was still have the whole house on edge. So I was asked to leave after 20 days, and so I went back out. I went and did a little bit more research for about another year before I came back, and I ended up in another detox, and I ended up at the Lighthouse over in Anaheim. When I got out of there, it's been a bumpy and rocky road, but I relapsed so many times. I've been back out so many times. This time I got 6 months, and I have the best recovery that I ever had, and it all comes down to really, I've had a sponsor a couple times, but really utilizing my sponsor and doing the steps honestly and not having hidden motives. You know what I mean? And it's crazy that once I started doing these things honestly and working these steps honestly and really letting go of all the bullshit that's been bagging, like I'm no longer a fucking victim. You know what I mean? It's not poor me. Today I'm of service. Today I have 2 commitments. I have a coffee commitment, and I also am a secretary. They threw me the secretary at 3 months, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's fucked up, right? Like, damn. But I took it because that's what my sponsor suggested. So today, life is pretty good. I have my oldest daughter in my life. I just took her for her birthday last week to the Queen Mary. I just finished my steps a couple weeks ago, and life is no longer fucked up, right? I'm starting to stack up all these good days, and I'm not gonna say I have serenity right now, but I have a fucking program. You know what I mean? And that involves calling other alcoholics, calling other addicts, not releasing my bullshit in the rooms, and doing it honestly, not no fucking bullshit for the women in here. I'm not fucking out here preying on women, I'm praying for them today. I have a beautiful fucking lady that I met in the rooms that I actually asked my sponsor if it was cool. They actually brought us together in the rooms, right? And, we've been together now 4 years, and she stood by my side through all my bullshit. And today, I'm a program of contrary action. It's everything I don't want to do, I do. I show up to meetings, I take commitments, I'm of service, and most of all, I'm honest. And I work a step, and I talk to my sponsor daily. Well, I won't say daily, but at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. And with that, I'm grateful. Things have gotten better, and I'm starting to stack up good days. And at 6 months today, I feel like I have the best sobriety that I've ever had. And thank you for letting me share.
Right.